Welcome to Digital Asset News. We take the top stories in cryptocurrency and digital assets and break them down into bite-sized pieces. Before we get started, let's do a little housekeeping. First of all, this channel is for entertainment purposes only, not a financial planner, a financial analyst, or anything that has to do with finances, just a small business owner that has a keen interest in cryptocurrencies and digital assets. Second, if you could do us a big favor, help us beat the YouTube algorithm. Either like the video or leave a comment, and it could be anything about the video itself that either you like it, you think it's great, or it sucks. Doesn't matter. Just make sure that it's relevant to the video that you're watching. And subscribe. Now, you don't have to do all three things, but one of those will be greatly appreciated. Today, there are some great stories, and they are hilarious. So let's get into it. First of all, Bitcoin has been dubbed the best performing asset of the decade. Big celebration, fantastic, everybody's happy. Everybody's happy except for my man Peter Schiff, who states that Bitcoin is already the worst performing asset of the decade. Moving forward, we also take a look at the Ethereum hard forks, which have just gone about. It is the second time in 1 month, or the second time in 30 days that I've gone through a hard fork and the upgrade leading up to Ethereum 2.0 and proof of stake. So let's get into these fantastic articles. First off, so Bitcoin dubbed the best performing asset of the decade. I think this is no secret, and it is great news for all of us who had to endure from 2017 to 2019 and how it all went. So it was a great year for Bitcoin if you invested in at the right time. Obviously, if you invested when it hit its all-time high of 2019, which was around 13,900. Not so great right now, but if you hit the bottom around 3,000, I think 3,200, then it's been a great year. So great job to you. But as we scroll down into this article, it says, Bitcoin has done a great job for its first 10 years. It was created in 2009, 2019, that was the 10-year anniversary. So if it's done this much in 10 years, what's going to happen in the next 10? And I like to compare that to businesses. Now, I've started many a business, and I can tell you this, the hardest part is just getting it off the ground. But once you get it moving, once you gain momentum, it's like a snowball rolling downhill. It just goes and builds and builds and builds. But just to get that initial push and momentum is a big pain. But once you get there, then things start to really become easier. And then you see like, wow, what the heck's going on? All of a sudden, we've got all these people around us, the price is going up, things are going great. So that's how I see the next decade going, and I'm very bullish, very excited. Moving on this article, it talks about John McAfee, who made a prediction years ago, about 2 years ago or so, where he states that Bitcoin would hit $1 million in the first year of the next decade, which would be 2020. And by the end of 2020, December 31st, 2020, we should hit $1 million. If this does not happen, we all know his famous bet was that he would eat his own junk. So let's see what happens. I sure hope he wins because 2 reasons. I don't think anybody should have to eat their own manhood. And secondly, I think it would be great if Bitcoin could hit $1 million and we could all be happy. Next up, it talks about Tim Draper. And Tim Draper, if you're not familiar, he is an angel investor. He's invested in small little companies like Tesla and PayPal and Uber, little things that have done, mild success. So he's one of those guys who I believe has the secret sauce and knows about things and what to invest in. Has he invested in some wrong things? Of course he has. Anybody who's in business will tell you, look, businesses go great, but they don't all go great. You have to fail a little bit. But with Tim Draper, he's made some pretty good bets. He's put a lot of money into Bitcoin. He picked it up years and years ago. So I tend to agree with his assessments. But he states that Bitcoin will hit $250,000 in the first quarter of the next decade. So if we're looking at around 2022, this, he says, will be boosted by the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Now, if you don't know, Bitcoin has a problem with scalability and speed. Lightning Network, it helps to kind of speed up all those transactions. So instead of having a transfer per second of in the teens, like 10s or 20s, it greatly accelerates this, and we'll see what happens in the future. I am not a tech guy. I don't really know too much about the Lightning Network. Only thing I know is that it's supposed to speed everything up, and that'll make a lot of people happy. So, when I saw this, I was like, oh, that's fantastic. It's good news that, Bitcoin has been recognized as one of those great assets because it legitimizes all the things that we've already been thinking. Look, if you're watching this video, I always talk about this, you're a smart 1%er early adopter. And if you have to explain this to your friends and family, it's a little bit difficult sometimes, right? So when you get to, when your family and friends and coworkers or whoever else and like, hey, you still into that crazy Bitcoin? You're like, hey, look, it's the best performing asset of the decade of last year, so calm down. And then I was looking through Twitter and I saw this. This is from Anthony Pompliano. He's been on CNBC, pretty good guy. He's got his own, not just a YouTube channel, but he does podcasts. Got a lot of good people on there. And this is one of the things that he tweeted out, talking about the most successful assets of 2019, and Bitcoin is crushing everything. The NASDAQ, Russia, crude oil, S&P 500, Russell, China, wow. UK, bonds, equities, and then down here is this thing called gold. Gold had a pretty good year, 18%. Well, that's fantastic, good for them. But if you had invested, let's say you invested, I don't know, $10,000 in gold, right? So then you'd have 11,800, something like that. I'm not good with math, but let's just say it's about that. If you had invested in Bitcoin, you'd have like almost $20,000. So I know that my man, Peter Schiff, he is a big gold bug, and he's been talking about as far as I can remember, the beginning of time apparently, that one, Bitcoin is trash, it'll go to zero. And also, if you've looked even before Bitcoin, he's even been on different shows. Before Bitcoin was even in his rearview mirror, he was on these shows talking like CNBC, MSNBC, financial, different shows that are out there on cable. He was talking about how the U.S. economy and the U.S. government were going to collapse, and the only thing that would save you is gold. And I got to tell you, I do a lot of marketing for my own businesses, and I can tell you that as a marketer, Peter Schiff knows the secret sauce, which is fear sells. There is a part of our brain, this reptilian part of our brain, our fight or flight, where, yeah, pleasure is good, but if you have to pick between pain and pleasure as far as marketing, we know that pain will push more people into our stores, buy our products, do our things, more so than pleasure, just the way it is. Look at the news. How many great feel-good stories do you see on CNN or your local news outlet or Fox News or whatever? It's all negative. It's all negative. So with Peter Schiff, he knows the deal. Speaking of which, I had to laugh. This guy, Peter Schiff. So he stated that Bitcoin's already the worst performing asset of the decade. Fantastic. So I was like, what the hell are they talking about? So Peter Schiff, the CEO of Euro Pacific Capital, is convinced that Bitcoin might fall even faster than the US stocks, according to the latest tweet of the crypto-hating gold bug. To top that off, Schiff already calls Bitcoin the worst performing asset of the decade based on its performance during the first 2 days of 2020. And he goes on to say, hey, look, continuing the December trend, all asset classes are rising except Bitcoin. Bitcoin may have been the best performing asset of the last decade, but it's already the worst performing asset of this decade. While I think US stocks will soon drop, I think Bitcoin will fall even faster. This guy, I love him. I appreciate Peter Schiff and his ability to market, but you've heard me say this many a time, and I'll say it again. Look at what people are doing, not what people are saying, right? So all these different institutions and Peter Schiff, and Peter Schiff's even been on record by saying that he owns some Bitcoin because he says, well, people just, they send me Bitcoin, so what am I going to do? But yeah, that is him. If you look at the asset class, and you look at all the institutions that are coming in, and we can take a look at places like Fidelity, TD Ameritrade. And also on top of TD Ameritrade, I don't know if you guys knew this, but TD Ameritrade was just acquired, well, not just acquired, but a couple months ago. Charles Schwab acquired TD Ameritrade for a $26 billion deal. That means that Charles Schwab, TD Ameritrade, are going to be doing cryptocurrency trading on top of Fidelity Digital Assets. And if you think about it, if you are a investment brokerage or you have clients, you have people who give you their money for their 401k or their retirement, and they depend on you to make the right decisions, and you're like, you know what? I don't know what the stock market's going to do. I mean, we think it's going to go up, but let's not put Bitcoin in there. Let's not put any digital assets. Are you crazy? If it was me, and I am not a financial planner or financial analyst, and that's why this is for entertainment purposes only, correct? So if it's me and I'm looking at all these things and I'm like, I want to make my clients happy. I want to delight my customers, right? So if I want to do that, if I can just take, I don't know, 1 to 5% of my client's portfolio and roll it into Bitcoin or Ethereum or XRP or whatever, however I have it set up at my firm, then I'm going to look like a genius, especially going from 2020 onward. Look, it's already been a winner of a deal for a very long time, so why wouldn't I do that? And if it's only like 1 to 5%, I mean, so if I don't make it, well, maybe if Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP don't make it, maybe like the S&P 500 or whatever else I have in for my client does make it. But if I do, I look like a genius. My customers are happy. Win-win, everybody, right? So that is that. We'll see what happens. But Peter Schiff, my man, he is a heck of a promoter. Him and Justin Sun. And last up, hard forks for the second time in 1 month. Ethereum has completed its second hard fork in less than 30 days. The Moore Glacier. This is the update of what it's called. The Moore Glacier delays the difficulty bomb by 4 million blocks. With the delay, the difficulty bomb is expected to not go off again for a few years. So basically, what the developers did was just kind of push everything back. Like, we'll get to you in a bit. And this is going to happen at least until the deployment of key Ethereum 2.0 features, such as the finality gadget. A purposeful design since Ethereum's launch in 2015, the difficulty bomb slowly increases block time settlement so as to push the network towards proof of stake. So right now, we see a lot of different cryptocurrencies, proof of work, made famous by Bitcoin. Ethereum is doing it right now, but Ethereum wants to move towards proof of stake. So instead of having to use computational power and electricity, they're going to allow people that own Ethereum, or institutions, I suppose, to stake their claim and say, okay, if you're going to stake POS or stake Ethereum, it's going to help bolster the Ethereum network, and we want you to do that, and we're going to pay you to do that to stake your Ethereum. A lot of different things that have been floating out there about how many Ethereum you need. The number that I keep seeing is 32 Ethereum, so if you have that ability, then fantastic. If not, I still think Ethereum is going to do very well. Look, it's a great cryptocurrency that has a lot of upside as far as like smart contracts and as far as like other projects being built on Ethereum. So we'll see what happens. Lastly, it says, if the Muir Glacier was not implemented, the cost of transactions on the current Ethereum network would skyrocket as block settlement times are projected to hit 20 to 30 seconds per block. As fewer blocks are minted every day, the cost of getting transactions in the block increases, Connor said. So we can see that they pushed that back. I don't know how that all worked out, but I can tell you this. There's a little thing called the Bitcoin halving coming up in May 2020. And what that's going to do is make everything difficult for these miners. So right now they're making 12 for every block it's 12.5 Bitcoin. That's going to be cut in half at 6.25. So imagine if you're, I don't know, you're at your job and they're like, hey Jerry, great job sweeping these floors. But tomorrow we're going to pay you half, but we need you to do the exact same work. So the exact same energy output. All right, Jerry, good job. See you later. That's essentially what's happening to the miners. And don't feel bad for them. They make a good amount of money, but it will be an interesting time period. And we like to see that statistically about a year or so after these halvings. That's when prices start to erupt. And that, my friends, is what I'm hoping for, but we will see. Anyhow, I want to say thanks for watching the video, listening to the rants. There's one more thing I want to make mention, and I hope you can help me out. Now, if you like the video and you're here all the way to the very end, it must mean that you've gained some value from the channel. we're having a heck of a time monetizing the channel with YouTube. We don't understand why. There was a big issue with YouTube shutting down cryptocurrency channels just a couple of weeks ago. Since we are new, we've only been around for about a month or so, and we've grown very fast. But to monetize your channel, you need at least 1,000 subscribers, which we have. We're closing on 5,000 now, and you have to have over 13,000 hours, or no, 4,000 hours, and we've got well over 13,000 hours. So when all this information came in, it just told us that, hey, you can't monetize. And we're flabbergasted. We have no idea why. So we took a look at all the criteria for YouTube. And there on our channels, there's no nudity, sex, no hate, no bullying, threats, graphic violence, dangerous content, any misleading information. That's why we tried to back everything up by statistics and reference things. There's no copyright infringement. We're not impersonating everybody. And there's definitely no child endangerment, or we do not cater to the children of YouTube. And you can tell by that, by the way that, well, first of all, the content that we're talking about, and sometimes I cuss. So we try to, and we don't do anything with children whatsoever. So we've asked the question, you can't send an email to YouTube. There's no phone number to call. The best way of what happened last time with all the other YouTubers is they took to Twitter and they just would send out tweets. Hey, at Team YouTube, why you shut down my channel? Hey, at Team YouTube, what happened to my video? Hey, at Team YouTube, what's going on? So if you like the channel, like the content, help us out and send at Team YouTube a message that says, hey, why can't at News Asset, which is our Twitter handle, why can't they become monetized? It seemed like a pretty decent channel, no problems, and there's no issues with your criteria. So if you can help us out, that would be great. I want to say thanks for watching all the way to the end, and we will see you on the next one.